Welcome to the Ohio Huntsman Podcast with your hosts Jason,
Jacob, and Jeff.
Before we get into this week's topic, we're going to do our updates from the field. This is Sunday after opening day, so I know both Jacob and Jeff hunted opening day. Jake, you even hunted this morning, so I did not hunt, so they're going to carry the updates from the field this week. So Jeff, what's your update from the field?
Yesterday morning, me and my wife went out. We hunted out of a ground blind on a feeder. We didn't see anything, but we had a good morning in the woods. That evening, I went and hunted out of a ladder stand. I saw 4 deer that time. 2 were just coming through. It was a doe and her fawn. They came up out of the creek about 70 yards away and walked the other way, so I didn't get an opportunity at those. About 15 minutes after that, I had 2 other does come running through my stand area. They appeared to be pushed. About a half hour after that, I discovered what had pushed them. The neighbor was walking his property with his dogs. That's what pushed those deer out. This morning I went out for the morning, hunted the same ladder stand. I got pushed out of the woods a little early because of rain. I didn't feel like sitting out there and getting all wet. You know, it was still early. I got plenty of time. Yeah. So, but that's what I've been up to.
And if you guys follow us on Instagram, both Jacob and Jeff posted in our Instagram story kind of like their view from the stand. So we're Ohio Huntsman Podcast on Instagram. We're going to be posting stuff like that, Instagram stories throughout the season, so you can keep up to date, even more up to date than our weekly updates from the field. So if you want like daily day of stuff, check us out there. So Jake, your updates from the field.
I also hunted opening day in the morning. Got a little later start than I wanted, which was kind of disappointing because I've been waiting for opening day, but my alarm went off and I was quick to turn it off because I didn't want my wife to wake up, and then I fell back asleep.
Oh.
So a little later start. I still made it, before daylight and all that, but I wanted to be in the woods and settled and let the woods, let all my disturbance settle down. So I was hoping to be in like an hour before first shooting light, but I ended up getting there, 15 minutes before shooting light. But I had a good morning sitting in the stand, didn't see anything. Everything looked promising when I was in the stand. It appeared that I was on some good deer trails. However, once I decided to call it a morning, I got down and kind of looked around a little closer, and what I thought were deer trails were not. They were probably last year's deer trails. They're not being used this year. So where that stand is, this is the farm out on the east side of the state. Probably needs to be moved. At this point, it's too late. Unfortunately, with work and other family life and stuff, I just didn't get out to that property to move stands around. So that stand probably won't get hunted this year, but that's okay. I do have a camera out pretty close to that stand that I've been watching, and that's kind of why I chose that stand, because there's been good activity on it. It's kind of looking on the backside of a cornfield, between the corn and the woods, I guess, or what we assume would be bedding area. And there's been some good movement through there. They're running that edge, and I did pull my camera on my way out of the woods, and it was evil, basically. There was 2 beautiful bucks that went by about 5:30 in the morning, opening day, which granted, that's obviously before shooting light. Couldn't have shot at those deer, but the fact that they were so close yet so far away was kind of torturous. And there also was a doe that had walked that edge, and then I saw it come back the other way the same time I came into the woods. So I clearly had pushed that deer back by coming into the woods. So maybe if I'd have been on stand when I wanted to, that deer may have done something different. Who knows? Can't really think about it now, but I did go to the same area today, but I sat on the ground, just kind of tucked back under a tree and some brush to hopefully catch. I've had a doe going through that, walking that ridge pretty much every morning around 8 o'clock, walking that edge. So I was hoping that she would do her normal walk. Didn't happen, but I had a good morning until it started raining. So that kind of cut my morning short too. And then I was moving around a little bit under this tree to see if I could maybe find a better setup, because I just kind of did it on a whim this morning. It was dark and I'm like, oh, it looks kind of like a cool little place. I'll sit in there. And it turned out to be really nice. I'll probably use it again. I just might have to move some stuff around to make it a little better. But while I was doing that, I did see a first year fawn, probably about 75, 80 yards down the corn, just doing what fawns do, hopping around, playing around. So then I kind of sat tight to see what it would do. It went the other way, further away from me, and I never saw the mom. Whether it was with the fawn or not, I don't know. It never showed up. It was raining at the time. So that was my 2 sets so far. I did not hunt either evening. Last night I had family plans, and now it's Sunday night and we're recording your podcast. So that's my deer season so far. Unfortunately, no harvest at this point, but it's early. And I forgot this part too. When it was still dark this morning, I sat down. I did have a deer. I heard a deer pretty close to me. I don't know what it was. I just know it was pretty close. And it sounded like it was pushed by something, whether it was disturbed from me coming in. I'd only been sitting probably for 20 minutes, and it was still well dark. But I heard that deer, so there's definitely deer where I'm at. It's just a matter of finishing.
Getting one in front of you.
Yeah, getting one in front of you, finishing the deal. So that's kind of what my season's been so far. A couple good sits, enjoyed my time, but nothing to show for it yet.
Cool. Those are our updates from the field for this week. And now we're going to get into the topic for this week, which is bears in Ohio. So you probably know, but if you don't, there are bears in Ohio. The ODNR recognizes that there's, between 50 and 100 bears in the state, they say. And you've probably seen in the media when people start getting pictures of bears, it ends up on the news. Maybe less so in southern Ohio, but more so in northern, northeast Ohio. You may have seen the news coverage of the black bear that got hit on the highway in Akron. And so today we're going to just kind of have a BS session, if you will, about bears in Ohio, our thoughts, and we're just going to kind of have a talk about bears and see where the conversation goes. So, Jeff, why don't you give us a little kind of history, if you have it, on bears in Ohio, or kind of what information you have at this point?
Bears are native to Ohio, but the population was extirpated in around 1850. And then since the 90s, they've started to filter their way back in, typically from the surrounding states of Pennsylvania and West Virginia. The states that they're primarily in right now, the resident bear population that Ohio has is in the northeast corner, filtering in from Pennsylvania that way.
That's where the one that got hit in Akron, that's where, because that bear had ear tags, right?
Yes,
and
that bear was tagged,
it
yes.
came from Pennsylvania, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yep. So yeah, filtering in from that area of Pennsylvania, and then there's also some bear that filter in from West Virginia into southeast Ohio. The primary counties that Ohio bears are being sighted in are Ashtabula, Trumbull, and Portage, and then with some also being sighted in the southeast corridor, basically all the riverfront counties.
So I guess I was unaware of that. There seems to be more of a population in the northeastern corner of the state. I just assumed that the southern part of the state, being more rural, would have more bears. But
well, there could be a little bit of a bias in the data, because how they're recording bears is by reported sightings and confirmed sightings.
Oh.
If there's less population,
right,
it's less likely for a bear to be
That people are
reported.
going to see it. Yeah.
Right. And also, the majority of the way that the confirmed sightings are being tracked in Ohio is through trail camera photos. About 20% of the confirmed sightings in Ohio are confirmed by a trail camera photo.
Okay. Which I saw a couple pictures online a couple weeks ago with a bear with cubs somewhere in this, and
That was in, I believe, Ashtabula County.
Okay.
But yeah, up in the northeast corner
Okay.
of the state, there was a bear sighted, a sow sighted with cubs. At least two. They recorded two cubs in one photo, so there's at least two. There may have been more.
Right. So that's all good information. So here's a question, I guess, for you guys. Have you ever seen a bear in the woods, in the wild?
I have not. Not in Ohio. I've seen bear in the wild, but never in Ohio.
What states?
I have seen bear in North Carolina, Tennessee. I think just North Carolina and Tennessee. In
Jake?
Colorado.
Any bears out in the wild?
I don't believe I've ever seen a black bear in the wild. I'm trying to think. I don't think I have. I know in Pennsylvania we saw elk at Grandpa's camp, but I don't think I've ever seen bear.
I have only seen zoo bears. I've never seen bears in the zoo. Not nothing in the wild.
I know for a fact that you've seen a bear in the wild because we were together when you saw a bear in Tennessee.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that bear. Yes. We were on a vacation, and yeah, we saw a bear in Tennessee. I don't know how I forgot about that already.
Oh, yeah,
That was a pretty cool, that was a pretty cool moment.
And that bear, I didn't get to see it. I was still up on top of the hill with the other half of the party, but that bear had a collar on, right? It was
Yeah,
collared.
it was a collared bear. Yeah, we were in a national, what national park was that, Jeff?
That was the Smoky Mountains
Okay.
National Park.
That's what I thought, but I didn't want to misspeak. So yes, I take that back. I have seen a bear in the wild. I've also seen a moose in the wild, but we're not talking about moose today.
I've also seen a moose in the wild.
No.
Never seen a moose in the wild. I feel like I'm left out on
I
a lot
thought I
of
had a
things here.
one-up on Jeff, but I guess not. He's pretty well-traveled in the wildlife. Okay, so we've not seen bears in Ohio. You ever seen any sign of bears in Ohio?
I've not.
No, I have not either. Not that I'm aware of, at least. I mean, nothing that's jumped out like that is from a bear.
So, short story. I was hunting. I was a kid. This happened the time that I shot my first deer. Standing in the woods, kid, dad dropped me off. Says, wait here. Dropped me off at first light, we got up there in the dark. Standing there on the ground, we're just hunting from the ground. Shotgun hunting. Bored out of my mind. I'm a kid. I got a pocket knife, start scratching the tree up like it's bear sign because I'm bored out of my mind. And I think if you ask Dad, he remembers that story. He thought that was kind of funny. I was over there scratching the tree up like it was a bear. But
I thought you were going to tell me someone else down at the cabin came up to that tree and said there was bear down there.
no, it was me just being a kid. Letting my mind wander.
Down by our cabin, the mail guy hit a bear, didn't he?
I don't know that
I
story.
believe the guy that runs the mail route down by our cabin hit a black bear a couple years back.
Really?
I know
Yeah.
there's some story, and you have to know the area, I guess. There's a lot of stories down
Yeah.
in that area. It's a very sparsely populated area, so stories travel and get kind of interesting quick.
There's one tree down there with bear sign on it. I've
Yeah, there
seen
is,
it with
right.
my own eyes.
right. But yes, I have heard some stories of there being a bear that ran around down there for some period of time. I didn't hear that the mailman hit it with his car, but I did hear that there was a bear at least at one point running around down there. But
Yeah. Never seen any sign down there. Seen bobcats, but no bear. So that being said, would you guys, if Ohio were to, well, forget Ohio, I guess for now, would you be interested or would you want to go on a bear hunt?
Yes, I would. I think it would be a good experience. I think it would be fun, enjoyable. I know in our immediate area, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, as far as I know, it's not real easy as an out-of-state resident to get a bear tag. At least I know I looked because our grandpa had a camp in Pennsylvania. I'm not exactly sure the county or location, but somewhere near where the elk are, central Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think it might be Elk County. Yeah.
And
That's convenient.
It's convenient, yeah. And there are bear around there, and I've looked in that area for out-of-state bear tag, and it's a lottery, and your odds are super, super, super low. And that would be my only easy, quote-unquote, opportunity because there's already a camp there.
Right.
But yeah, I'd be interested in doing it. My wife told me that she would not be interested in me doing it because she doesn't want to eat bear.
No.
But I think if I actually did it and got a bear, I think she'd try it, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be very interested in hunting bear, and I've looked into it as well just to see, what the cost would be to go out of state and hunt one. And, I've talked to my wife about it, see if she would be interested. She's a new hunter, and she's kind of expressed some interest in it as well. So
would you want to, because there's kind of two ways, I guess, that I'm aware of to hunt bear. You hunt them over bait, or out west you can do more of like a spot and stalk style hunt. Jeff, what would you rather do?
Well, there's a third
option
that is pretty common in West Virginia, I believe, and that's hunting with dogs. You
right, yeah.
tree a bear and hunt it that way. And I don't think I'd be interested in that. It just doesn't seem a whole lot of fun to me. I mean, it's the dogs chase the bear, the dogs do all the work. All I'm doing is following the dogs and shooting a bear out of a tree. So I don't think I'd be very interested in that one. That just didn't, if I wanted to do a bear hunt, I think I would prefer hunting over bait, just because also the spot and stalk method, is I'd have to actually probably go somewhere further out of state where
right.
I could go somewhere close and hunt over bait.
And I would bet that the hunting with dogs is probably fun. It's probably just a very, we've not done anything like that. I think it's more about like the camaraderie of the guys that you're with and the, working the dogs and watching the dogs work.
Yeah, it's probably similar to driving deer.
Right.
It's similar to doing deer drives during gun season. It's a camaraderie thing, and
yeah.
Yeah,
How about you, Jake? What style would you choose?
I mean, all variables taken out, I would say like a spot and stalk would be the most enjoyable or cool experience. That's assuming that I had the same opportunity to do that as I have to do, over bait or with dogs. Realistically, my opportunity would probably be more like a over bait hunt, just because that's what would be like in Pennsylvania or so I would say if I had to choose one and I had unlimited resources, I would rather spot and stalk. But
so you're saying that because it's closer,
correct. I have a much better chance of doing it over bait than ever spot stalking a bear out west.
Getting out west.
Yeah, I'd love to go out west. I hope I get to go out west at some point. I plan on going out west, but not right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
What about you? You didn't answer the question.
I'm figuring if I'm gonna do a bear hunt, I want to go do a spot and stalk. I think that would be cool. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I've never done that kind of hunting. I think that kind of hunting in general would be fun, interesting. It's always been tree stand or sitting in the woods or doing deer drives. But I think getting up in the mountains I haven't spent a ton of time in the mountains, but I'd like to spend more time in the mountains. Big hurdle for me is, like if you're going to do something backcountry where you got to camp and stuff, we've just not done that. So that's kind of a big barrier to entry for me, I guess, as far as learning how to do that, sort of refining that system. Those guys that grew up doing it, they probably take a lot of that for granted on how to do that. I just have millions of questions and probably things I don't even know to ask questions about.
Yeah.
But that would be my pick, I guess, would be to go out west and do a spot and stalk style hunt. So coming back to Ohio, do you think there'll be a bear season in Ohio? And if so, how long before they open a season? With, the ODNR sort of recognizes that there's 50 to 100 bears in the state. How many bears do you think we need before they'll open a season?
That's a hard thing to answer because I don't know if they would want to establish a bear population throughout the whole state before they opened, hunting in any counties. But, I kind of see that the I'll just say the eastern half of the state and along the Ohio River seem to be the most suitable bear habitat. So those counties will probably get bears first and will have the best bear populations. So hopefully they, do something similar to what they do with turkey, and they, did open it up gradually by counties as the population came in. But I believe the population is growing, and it's growing fast because the bears, especially the ones coming from Pennsylvania has a pretty active bear hunting season. I mean, last year, 3 of the counties that touched, that northeast corner of Ohio, Crawford County, there was 40 bears harvested in Crawford County. There was 13 harvested in Erie County, and then 6 harvested in Mercer County. So just the fact that they can, go across the border and have 0 hunting pressure, is going to push bears into the county or into the state. The home range of female bears is typically between 25 and 50 miles. That's a pretty big area.
Yeah.
And then for male bears, their home range is typically between 100 and 125 miles.
So hearing those numbers surprises me that they're saying that there's only 50 to 100 bears in the state. If they're harvesting, the one county you said there was 39 bears or something? Or what?
40 bears were
40
harvested
bears.
in 2017 in Crawford County, which touches Ohio. I think it's by Youngstown is where.
Now that 50 to 100 bears number, is the ODNR recognizing that as resident Ohio bears that do not return to Pennsylvania at any point?
I believe their statement is that there's 50 to 100 bears in Ohio at any one time. So some are resident bears and some are basically just visiting, passing through, looking for suitable habitat or share their range between Pennsylvania and Ohio.
So do you guys, just trying to get a sense for how quickly a bear population grows. So a sow can have 2 to 3 cubs? 2 is probably more typical?
2 to 3 is average. They can have, typically in their first breeding year, they typically just have 1. After that, they have between 2 and 3, but sometimes 4. There's been reported cases of 5.
But unlike deer, I think bear, and I don't know what the term is, but parent for more than one season, right?
Yes,
The cubs are a couple years old before they're completely weaned from their mother.
Yes, they breed every other year.
Okay.
And yeah, so they don't leave their mother until they're a year and a half, essentially, about old, when the mother is ready to breed again.
Do we have any information on what the survival rate of those cubs are? Just because they're, I mean, I feel like, not because necessarily, but it certainly plays a factor that since deer kick their young out, I don't want to say early, but maybe before they're fully matured or grown, that may contribute to mortality. I wonder if bears, since they let them stick around longer, if mom can protect them longer. I don't know.
I would assume, I don't have any data on that, but I mean, the only real predator for bears is humans, other bears,
yeah.
and then canines, whether they're coyotes or domestic dogs, and they're all of those are only really, humans are preying upon adult bears, but once the mother is, kicked them out, essentially, I think humans are the only real predator other than another bear, and another bear isn't probably going to kill them for food, but more of a territory thing.
Right. Jeff, do you know if the seasons in the states that surround us, are those male bear only, or do they not distinguish between sex?
I am pretty sure that Pennsylvania is not a male bear only state. I believe you can't you can't shoot a bear that has cubs, a sow that has cubs with her, but I don't believe they distinguish. I'm not sure about West Virginia. I know Kentucky's bear season is, once a quota is met, it closes.
Okay.
And it's, in a county. And that county will be like, 5 bears or 1 male or 2 males. And so whichever comes first. If they hit 5 bears, it closes, or if they shoot, and actually females, I misspoke there.
No, I was going to ask.
Yeah, I misspoke.
Yeah, okay.
Females. If they shoot 2 females in that county, it closes,
Shuts it down.
whether those are the first 2 bears.
Okay.
I've heard of that out west in certain circumstances. The one that's coming to mind, not with bear, but with sheep out west, somewhere in, I think it's in Montana somewhere. There's like over the counter, anyone can just go buy a sheep tag and go hunt this like rugged wilderness area. But it's the same thing. There's only like 2 sheep allowed to be taken out of here, and once 2 are taken, they shut everything down.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting idea. The only hurdle to that is you have to have some sort of a leeway as to, if the bear are harvested on Monday, the season probably you have to give them at least a couple days for everyone to get that information.
Yeah.
I think in Kentucky, it's
The responsibility of the hunter to check in.
every day. I think it's
In Kentucky, you have cell service everywhere. Out west, that's not necessarily as feasible.
I believe it's their responsibility every day before you go out to hunt to see, is the season open today.
Yeah. I think for some reason 48 hours is sticking into my head. Maybe that's how long they have after you harvest a sheep to get back to civilization and get it reported.
I'm pretty sure that one I'm thinking of out west, it's 2 days after. Like it's 48 hours or something. It closes 48 hours after that second sheep is harvested, and that's just because people are out of touch with civilization.
Right.
But at that point, you still need some way to check in at least every couple days. And a lot of the guys, or not a lot, but like I said, it's the one I'm thinking of is a pretty hard unit out there, and those guys hunt 15 days straight just because they get so far in there. It's not worth coming back out.
Right.
Thing. But
Yeah.
I digress. We're talking about sheep. We're supposed to be talking about bears.
Right. To circle back on whether we're going to have a huntable population and how long, I'm estimating that there will be some sort of bear hunting in Ohio within 10 years. I think that the counties that currently have bear populations, the bear populations are going to grow pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
And they're going to need to do something to control the populations in those counties.
Yeah. Because I know that one that got hit on the highway in Akron, there was video of it in Wadsworth tearing down somebody's shepherd hook getting at the bird feeders. And I think you start seeing more of that, and people are going to be not super thrilled about having bears raiding their bird feeders.
Yeah, it's going to be an adjustment for Ohioans to learn how to live with bears.
Yeah.
I mean, because for the past 150 years, there hasn't been any bears. So basically, no one alive today has seen a
had to deal with it, had to
Right.
keep your trash locked up or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an adjustment.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's bear related. It's unrelated to Ohio bear. Have you guys seen the video of it's a bear, and I think there's a dumpster in the background or something, and he comes into camera view. He starts scratching his back on this post, and there must be a piece of tubing or a piece of something, not pipe, but some kind of flexible rubber hose or something.
Swings around and hits him in the nuts.
Yeah.
And he kind of crumples up on the ground.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that just tickles me. It just makes me laugh every time I see it.
Yeah.
I'll try to find that, and we can post it in the show notes for anybody that hasn't seen it. It's good for a laugh. But Jake, you and I have talked about a theory, not a theory, but just if we were emperor of the world, a very limited Ohio bear hunt. Do you want to expand on that or kind of tell the audience about that? Or
I mean, basically, just as we've started to see more and more about bear in Ohio, it kind of opens up this idea of, is there ever going to be a huntable population? Will we be able to hunt bear in Ohio? And my theory, I guess, like you said, if I was emperor of the world, is I just feel like it would be such an enormous influx of money if you could somehow manage to get a bear season with all because it's going to have to be a lottery, obviously. You can't it's not going to be anything like deer tags where you could just go buy them. It's going to have to be a lottery. You put a application fee on there plus a bear tag. If you look at the price of bear tags around just our neighboring states, I mean, they're much, much more expensive than a deer tag. You're not talking $20.
roughly, what do you guys know what a bear tag in like Pennsylvania or any idea?
I don't, because a lot of other states around us, if you're for a residence, it's you pay a pretty higher initial fee for a hunting license, and then your tags are a little cheaper.
Oh,
where
so to really
ours
break
are
down the
our licenses are fairly cheap and our tags are fairly cheap for residents, where in other states your initial license is pretty expensive and tags are cheaper.
I see.
I mean, I've seen I don't know an exact figure, but I've seen like bear tags. I mean, you're going to be in the hundreds versus the less than $100.
Right.
And again, like, you put a application fee, and then even if you refund the majority of that application fee, if you don't draw, I mean, you're still making, I would imagine a huge number of people that are actively hunting, if they're given the opportunity, would apply for a bear hunt in Ohio.
Yeah.
Well, just look at how lucrative the lotteries are for deer hunts, controlled deer hunts. I mean, they charge a $3 application fee and have thousands, tens of thousands of applications. I mean, the ODNR gets a lot of money. Now, I don't know what that money goes towards exactly, but I would assume that some of it is just profit for the ODNR. I don't think it can cost all of that amount of money to host these hunts.
Yeah.
And those are only $3 an application, so that's a very minimal fee.
Right. And I mean, obviously, again, if this were to ever come to be, I'm assuming they would incorporate something like the out west point system and whatever to make everything fair. I don't know. I don't know what the ODNR will do, but I just feel like maybe it's not well known, but from everything I've seen, the ODNR is tight on money. So I feel like, again, obviously you need a sustainable population to start hunting it, but I just feel like it's such a huge possible revenue that they could tap into. It doesn't even have to be, when you and I talked, I think it was one bear. They're going to give one tag away.
Right.
And at that point, it's still, it's just, and then you could obviously, because then the argument is, well, if you only have a population of 50 bears and you give one tag away and they shoot a sow, or whatever. But at that point, you can put whatever regulation you want on it.
Right.
To where it's a male only bear tag. And if you shoot a sow, then you put whatever penalty you want. There's more money. If you shoot a sow, you got a $10,000 whatever.
Or just,
you better be darn sure what bear you're shooting.
Right.
Yeah, or just make it that, if you shoot a sow, there's a penalty and the season closes for 5 years.
Right, or whatever.
No one gets to hunt bear
they
again
can do whatever
for
they want
5
with
years.
It. Right, they can do whatever they want with it. But that was just kind of what you and I were talking. Like, I just feel like it's could be potentially such a moneymaker. And I'm not looking for the ODNR to rip people off. That's not what I'm saying. But I think people would pay for that opportunity, like Jeff said, just like they pay for these controlled hunts. People are hard up for places to hunt, and if you give them a new opportunity, and obviously there would have to be some sort of buy-in for land. I'm not sure what the public landscape looks like where the bear are.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's all private, and at that point, where are these people going to hunt on this tag? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But
so you're talking about doing this currently with the current bear population, or soon with a...
Yes, that was what we were. Jason and I were just talking. Like
shooting the bull
one day, and there's this bear running around Wadsworth and Akron and causing problems, so to speak. It was just a bear being a bear, but people around that area aren't used to bear, so they were thinking it was a big nuisance. Hide your children, hide your wives type thing. There's a bear coming. But I just feel like it had to be super limited at this population, granted. And I don't know that we really know how many bear there are, because like you said, if your reporting data is sightings, I'm not super familiar with bear, but I don't think they like to make a habit of being seen. I think they're kind of a pretty private animal. They're not, as far as I know, they're not like a deer where if you drive around farm fields in the evening, you're going to see deer in the field. You're not going to see bear like that. I don't know.
Well, and I think it kind of goes to show, because the majority of the confirmed bear sightings in Ohio are from trail cameras. They're not from people seeing them and taking photos, or even bear, because the way that they can confirm a bear sighting is a ODNR employee sees it, someone takes a photo, or they find some sort of bear sign, whether that's hair, track, or scat.
Okay.
So I think that kind of just goes to show that they are pretty private animals, because people aren't seeing them. It's trail cameras in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we talked about it that day, I just thought it was an interesting idea to kind of play around with, a single bear, because it still is a low number of bears in the state, but a single bear put into a lottery, everybody, puts money in to apply, and, the money goes back to conservation, habitat improvement, something like that would be...
Right, you can earmark it to do whatever you want with it. Just to use kind of anecdotal evidence, so to speak, or, this year, a bear was hit by a car, at least one bear was hit by a car in Akron, Ohio. And even if you wanted to put a rule in place where any reported, bear that dies in the state that's a female bear closes the season, it's over. I don't know how you do it, but
right,
I feel like there's a way.
I believe at least 3 bears were hit by cars in Ohio this year.
Okay.
Right. So 3 bears. There's at least 3 bears taken from the population.
Right.
So one single bear tag, one single bear is not going to hurt
Right.
And you're
Bear
Why
are dying other ways.
Why not use it as an opportunity to raise
Right.
some funds?
right. You're looking for something very similar to what they're doing out west in Indiana, or not Indiana,
Idaho.
with
the
the grizzly bear
Yeah,
population.
that's kind of what triggered it in my brain. They just opened up grizzly hunting out west, which is a whole nother topic.
Yeah, that's a whole can of worms.
It's a whole can of worms we won't get into, but yeah, so that was kind of the same thing though. I think it was Idaho, was the state that is going to do one single grizzly tag. So that's kind of the idea. That's kind of what triggered it. I'm like, well, if they can do it with grizzly bear, why can't we do it with black bear?
Right. And raise a ton of money for conservation.
Right.
And I think to kind of move us into future bear hunting, when Ohio has a, large bear population where it's more tags are being issued, I think Ohio's going to be a hotspot for bear. I think people are going to, just like they're coming to Ohio for big bucks, they're going to come to Ohio for big bear, because Pennsylvania has some of the biggest black bear. The largest black bear ever killed by a hunter was killed in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I believe 4 of the top 10, maybe 5 of the top 10 were all in Pennsylvania. The third largest bear, I believe the third, ever killed by a hunter, because the larger ones have been found, skulls found dead. But the third largest bear ever killed by a hunter was in Fayette County, Pennsylvania, in 2005, which is close to Morgantown, West Virginia. That's the rough area.
Okay.
And that bear was only killed 75 miles from Ohio. And it was a male bear, and male bears' home ranges are 100 miles.
No.
So that bear very well could have
been in Ohio.
And that was a 700-pound bear.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Why do you think they're bigger? Do you think they just have an easier life out here, or they've got donuts, or
I think it's quality habitat along with genetics.
a lot of mast crops, like the nut crops? The acorns and the hickory nuts.
And bear are also kind of like agricultural crops.
Okay.
Getting into apple orchards and fruits, and so I think it's both habitat, that it's a little bit of an easier living,
right,
compared to a lot of the other places that they currently are, and it's probably has something to do with a little bit of genetics.
Yeah. Okay. Well, is there anything else we want to cover on bears before we shut it off today?
Trying to look something up real quick
Okay.
that could possibly spur some conversation. Bergman's rule, that's what I was looking for. So to go back to I'll explain what Bergman's rule is. To go back to what you were saying, you said Ohio would be big bear. Bergman's rule, what that means is as you get further north from the equator, animals get larger. So what you're saying is the biggest bear in Pennsylvania, that would be bigger than bear in New York State or Maine. So that kind of defies that in a sense, but you think that's because there's more agricultural crop. Because that's where the white-tailed deer follow Bergman's rule. The deer south are much smaller. We're not talking antler size at this point, body size, smaller. And as you go up, your biggest body deer are going to be in Saskatchewan, Canada. Regularly they're killing deer up there that are 300-pound, just monster whitetails. So I'm sure bear follow the same thing. Has to do with heat dissipation and that kind of stuff. Is got to be bigger, more fat to survive cold. But so I think what you're saying is Ohio might be the perfect middle of, we have the agricultural, we're more north. So I think that might kind of give you, I don't want to use the term super bear, but your perfect middle where it's, there's enough food because we don't have those harsh winters that kill everything necessarily. Every once in a while we have pretty bad ones, but nothing like you would have up in Canada. But we're north enough to where just genetically they're going to be a little bigger.
Yeah, basically all I know is that Pennsylvania has big bears. So whatever they're doing, whatever is going on in Pennsylvania is, there's not much difference between, where that area of Pennsylvania and Ohio.
Right.
So it should be pretty similar, and people could flock to try to shoot big bears, especially if we let the population grow for a while.
Right.
There could be very old, mature bears, because that could be the other thing with Pennsylvania, is that they allow the bears to mature. I believe both the bears in the top 5 for largest, the biggest bear ever killed by a hunter, and the third, the Pennsylvania Game Commission, I think that's what they call it, estimated those bears to be over 10 years old.
Wow.
So they were old
bears. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, I just think it's a potential huge revenue that Ohio could tap into in terms of wildlife money.
Yeah.
I don't know. Without getting into a rabbit hole too deep, I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff with out-of-state licenses and increasing those fees. And because at this point, I don't know, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Ohio is still one of the lowest out-of-state license states.
Yeah, especially in big buck territory,
Especially
quality buck habitat.
Depending on the year, top 5 big buck state.
Right. And yeah, for that specifically, I believe we're very affordable for out-of-state hunters.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how things shake out here, I guess, over the next couple years, couple seasons, and see where it goes. So if there's nothing else then at this point, we talked about everything you guys wanted to cover? Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we'll sign off. As always, subscribe to the show. That way you'll get notified when there's new episodes released. Check us out on Facebook. We're always posting things on there to kind of get your feedback or what we're up to. Facebook at Ohio Huntsman and Instagram at Ohio Huntsman Podcast. Thanks for listening.